Hey everyone, this is Nitro. In this video, I thought I would go over my standard PvE team as opposed to my Apex Arena team. The other characters who I may occasionally use for PvE content will be covered in the Apex Arena team, but I'll go over the party of heroes that I use for PvE content almost exclusively. So, my most commonly used party tends to consist of these characters. There's going to be Ledin or Landius as my tank. There's going to be Tiaris as my primary healer. There's going to be Luna as the damage dealer and faction buffer for Princess Alliance characters. And then I may bring Leon as a secondary damage dealer. I may bring Sophia as a secondary healer. If I need to change to magic damage, I may very well replace Leon with Lana or maybe Yulia. And finally, Chef Elwin sometimes comes as a physical damage dealer, and Lana sometimes comes as a healer as well. Okay. Finally, for a strategy change, if I want to apply full physical damage, for example, sometimes I bring the combo of Bernhardt, Elwin, and Leon. Okay. Because the combo of these three heroes is they're all Empire, so Bernhardt will be the faction buffer, and then he'll have Hegemony and his talent to debuff the enemy stats. Elwin will single target strike like crazy to do damage. Leon will also single target strike like crazy to do damage, and in this kind of situation, he usually does not bring Chivalry. Instead, he brings Smash and Assault for maximum damage output. And then the others would be, let's say, healers again, and to keep everyone healthy, and maybe a tank. Alright. First off, I used Lana a lot. And Lana has an Astaroth, Black Bride, a Charon, and a Holy Ring. The last two items don't really matter as long as there are any accessory that gives maximum intelligence or near max, and then any helmet that gives a good amount of int, that's fine. Alright. So that's my Lana. She rotates between using AoEs and single target strikes. Right? She's very versatile in that sense. She can launch out 3 AoEs, she can also bring 3 or more single target strike skills, and she can also apply magic defense intimidate debuff to reduce enemies' magic defense. Alright. Second would be Luna. Luna, usually I kind of rotate her skills. Sometimes I just bring her with Wind God Realm and Move Again for a lot of the auto battle fights, but for Timeless Trials and so on, I usually bring her with Wind God Realm, Move Again, and her faction buff, so that the other characters end up buffed. My Luna is really built for maximum magic defense, so you can see 5% on the weapon, 15% on the armor. The King's Crown has 14% with actually 11% hit points as well. And the Veil of Light has a 10% magic defense increase as well. So she's missing, what, 1% magic defense? That's it. And yeah, I mean, she has more hit points than she needs for PvE content, truthfully speaking. Leon, he's my main damage dealer, right? But ironically enough, he's using a level 20 version of his exclusive. The main reason for this is because I don't use him for PvP anymore. And because of that, all he needs is enough survivability to avoid getting killed. Well, because I usually run angels on him, the soldiers almost always tank all the damage. Right? Especially since my training ground for Flyer and Aquatic is now at 70, 70, 68, 68. So given his tough soldiers, I actually have not seen Leon die in a single strike in general. Or if he ever gets he definitely never dies to AoE attacks. And he's usually in a tank's guard range anyways. So I've never seen the need to upgrade this Blue Dragon Carapace, his exclusive. So just an interesting point I want to raise up. He's using a level 20 version of his exclusive armor. Ledin. So my Ledin is actually just 5 stars. He's not even 6 stars. He has not been required to raise up to 6 stars, which is amazing for a PvE tank. A 6-star Ledin can be useful for, let's say, clearing the SSSS final trial potentially, but truthfully speaking, there's a lot of other characters that you can use for clearing SSSS. For example, maybe building up an Omega to 5 stars. So I would generally say leave Ledin at 5 stars, right? For the 150 shards that you can grind to raise Ledin to 6 stars, you can instead put it onto Omega, and then that would give you a better character for clearing SSSS final trial. I use Ledin everywhere, really. And even at 5 stars, he's more than enough. You can see that my Ledin has 333 defense plus 300 and then 298 magic defense plus 187 right now. He's running 2 hard rock enchants as well as 2 crystal enchants. There's a Gaia's armor because it gives an extra 15% defense. This one is probably not the best if you were to use Ledin for PvP, but for PvE content, this is really, really good. Because ultimately, this means he's giving me 25% defense and 11% more hit points. The Fury of Tyr has a 10% magic defense, 8% defense, and 4% attack. This is probably the worst enchant of the bunch. Right? King's Amulet has 8% defense and 6% magic defense. And then the Oath of Justice is the amazing enchant with 4% defense, 4% magic defense, and 9% hit points. Since 5, 5, 10 is the absolute max, this is just a crazy enchant that I got on the Oath of Justice. No, I mean, he serves his role. Pretty much anything that attacks him gets one-shotted, so it's just great. The only thing that I could do to maybe improve him further would be, for PvE content, potentially just get more defense and magic defense at the cost of hit points. Right? I think that I don't think he really needs a hit point increase for PvE content. Instead, if you maximize the defense and magic defense, he would do maximum counterattack damage. So if I were to re-roll for enchants or something, I'd probably replace this gear with gear that can give me even more defense or magic defense. That way, with the enchants. PvP, of course, is a different beast entirely for Ledin. You might consider changing Ledin entirely up, such as bringing, the damage reflection Ledin, which would use crystal molders for the 30% damage reflection, and then you'd probably bring the drop near for 30% range damage reduction. Right? A drop near can reflect 30% damage when ranged attack. And then if you have Thorns enchant combined with those, that's another 30%. So you would be looking at potentially 30% from the crystal molders, 30% from the Thorns enchant, and 30% for drop near for a 90% damage reflection build, which means Ledin, can very well kill any ranged attackers that hit him. The alternate choice is, rather than the drop near, you would choose to bring maybe the Holy Arc, which would serve the same role against melee attacks. I'm not sure I even have a Holy Arc anymore, as a side note. I think I broke all of them up. But yeah, a Holy Arc would reflect against physical attacks. And then, once again, it would be a Thorns enchant build, luck-based, but if it kicks in, you're killing the target that strikes your Ledin. So if I were to flip to using Ledin for PvP, that would be, I would have to basically build up a second set of gear for him. That's pretty much it. That actually kind of went off topic because this was supposed to be a PvE oriented video. Well, moving on. Other heroes I use for PvE right now is, Yusuke has mostly fallen off to the wayside for me. I only use him to clear like Nime's or battles like the challenges as occurred with the most recent Overlord collaboration challenge. So he just has a set of gear that's not about survivability anymore. It's about maximizing damage, right? There's a Slayer's Emblem with 9% attack increase, King's Crown with a 4%. There's a Monkey King vest with basically 4%. And then the Mimir's War Axe actually has a mere 11%. So my Yusuke actually is lacking quite a bit of damage, realistically speaking. Right? This is 11 plus 4, let's say, it's 15. 15 plus 4 is 19. 19 plus 9 is a 28% when your maximum is 35%. Right? I am missing 7% attack. Right? So if I were serious about this, I'd probably re-roll the Mimir's War Axe to get even further attack and so on. But at the same time, my Yusuke does fine. He was able to kill off the boss of the challenge in 2 hits anyways. So it's more of a, if I were to maximize his damage, but I don't really need it in the case of Yusuke. Bernhardt is next, and my Bernhardt is 5 stars with 52 out of 150. This is actually pretty important because Bernhardt is actually getting his 3C and upgrade to his faction buff soon, which means my Bernhardt is in a pretty good situation for getting raised to 6 stars potentially for use in PvP again. Right? His main use in PvP would actually be as a faction buffer, right? But the fact that when he gets his 3C, he gets things like Shield Bash gets 1 extra range, so it's a 2 range attack. I think sword dance gets better and so on. So there's a lot of potential for me returning to using Bernhardt. Just an interesting point for PvP purposes. In any case though, for PvE content, this Bernhardt has been enough. He brings hegemony, he brings his faction buff, he brings parry. Sometimes I swap that out, and sections I might bring Iron Fist and Shield Bash and remove his faction buff and parry. It all depends on what I'm facing. Right? His main utility is actually his talent, which decreases enemies' defense and attack by 11% each. Combined with Hegemony, which decreases the enemy's defense by a further 20%, also dispelling a buff as a side note, this means he's basically reducing the enemy's defense by 31%. So if you run an all-physical attack party, he can be a great damage enabler for your other characters. Something like, let's say, Bernhardt, Elwin plus Leon would be a great combo for an extremely high physical attack damage. So Bernhardt has his exclusive, providing the hero span +1. It's not really a PvP enchant right now, you can see it's just a bit of attack and a bit of hit points. I have him equipped with a Mjolnir because the Mjolnir, which has 13% attack roughly, will allow him to dispel 2 buffs from enemies. So the Mjolnir dispels 1, and then Hegemony dispels the second one. Other than that, there is an Overlord's badge on him because I sometimes use him as a tank for Guild Wars. So he has an Overlord's badge that actually has a max attack increase. Interesting point there. And it's really just to allow him to keep tanking for Guild Wars. And finally, a Chief's Helmet because I had one built. That's really the only reason he has it. No other reason. Okay. So, next up is Elwin. And Elwin is another character that's going to be converted to PvP soon because he gets access to his SP class next month. I believe the SP class is being released on January 21st, so that will require a complete gear change for him. Very likely, I suspect I'm going to steal most of the set of gear from Tiaris, like the Aeolus' battle armor, for example, maybe the wing shin guards or something. We'll see, I haven't really decided yet, because he will need maximum attack. But right now, my Elwin is in his Lancer class, using a Guild Wars set of gear. So there's a Peacemaker, Aeneas' armor, Fury of Tyr, and finally a Speed Boots, of all things, to give him 4 mobility. Because I don't have multiple pairs of Apex Boots. Right? I only have one, and the one is on Ariane Rod. And in the first place, Elwin, once he gets his SP class, he's no longer going to be Infantry or Lancer. He's going to be a Cavalry class hero. And being in Cavalry class, he uses swords and so on. So his gear set will completely change. I suspect most likely though, he'll use his exclusive. I have his exclusive at level 50. It just doesn't have an enchant on it right now. Right? So it's literally just leveled up to level 50, no enchant on it yet. I'm gonna have to start enchanting this. And then I'm gonna have to figure out a breeze set, a more effective breeze set for him. Most likely, it'll be something like one of these Aeolus' battle armors that I have. And then, so an Aeolus' battle armor, the Fury of Tyr, and then a high damage increasing accessory. Okay. Although he might run Swordsmith. I'm actually not sure which accessory he should be running for PvP once his SP class is released. Well, we'll wait and see, I suppose. So that will be Elwin. His gear set will change dramatically. Right now, as I said, I use him just for clearing Guild Wars. On the few battles where I do need him for actual challenges and so on, all I do is I go over to my Ariane Rod. Right? I unequip Ariane Rod's set of gear, and I throw this set of gear onto Elwin. Nice and effective. Okay. Renne. My Renne is a mere 4 stars. Okay. She's actually really usable even at 4 stars because Renne Annihilation reduces the enemy's magic defense to 0. Okay, but I rarely use her. There's multiple reasons, such as I do videos and a lot of people don't have Renne built, so I rarely use her. And the fact of the matter is, Renne and Lana serve basically the exact same role. Right? Lana can do the free range attack and single target strike like crazy. Renne can do the Renne Annihilation attack and do crazy amounts of damage, right? So that's pretty much it. The one difference between the two, I would say, truthfully, is that Renne is, I mean, you can actually add them both together into a party, right? For maximum damage, magic damage output, you can have both Renne and Lana in the same party to output insane amounts of damage. But yeah. In any case though, my Renne is actually running a kind of weird set, especially for her. She has a Death's Robe, which is actually okay for her. She has a Warlock's Hood that can reduce the enemy's magic defense by 30%. This is actually... Magic defense Intimidate reduces by 20%. So the fact that Renne Annihilation... the fact that Warlock's Hood can reduce by 30% can be a big difference. She has a Meditation Ring simply because I don't have that many SSR accessories that are int-based. And finally, she has, of all things, a Miracle Staff. The Miracle Staff is the one that I feel can be very much be replaced. You know, something like an Astaroth would be better if I have a second Astaroth. Because generally speaking, Renne does a follow-up strike. Right? She's not the first to attack. You usually attack with, let's say, someone like Bozal to debuff, and then she launches her Renne Annihilation after that. So the Astaroth would be great for her. But other than that though, for Guild Wars, she has the Miracle Staff because I usually equip her with multiple AoEs. Like Calamity Throw, Patter Matter, and the Freeze Strike. And then finally she has a Clocks Enchant so that there's a potential for Clocks triggers so she can keep launching out AoEs. Rachel. Another PvE character for me. Rachel is PvE for me because she is 5 stars. I rotate her skills depending on what I'm using her for. Very often she's running this combo of Meditation, Runic Void, and Magic Defense Support simply because that's the combo I use for her to do regular arena. Right? Although my team is starting to fail, this regular arena team for auto battling can still very often work, right? With Bozal, Listel, Rachel, Liana, and Leticia. So it's usually just Listel Mind Bore, right? Liana Act Again, Listel Blood Dance, and then follow up with Bozal launching out an AoE and Rachel launching out an AoE. And that usually wipes out enough enemies to give you a big advantage. Now, this strategy is indeed starting to fail, as I mentioned. And the failure comes from the following factors. Let me just quickly go back for a second. Let's not watch the rest of it. It comes from actually several characters, I should say. And the characters that are really making it fail now are Wilder and Sage of the Trees. Because both of them, when they die, they will dispel debuffs, and then in the case of Sage of the Trees, he applies terrain effects, so that your other characters can't move in, because it counters flyers and so on. Right? So it is making it harder for me to do regular arena, in that I have to be much more picky about who I fight. It used to be I could just attack anyone and win, right? Nowadays, for example, you can see right now I have 4 battles done. My 5th battle I haven't done yet because actually I could try against Poringson, but I know his Betty can sometimes cause my battle to fail. So that's why I haven't attacked him. I will just check in again in 26 minutes and hope for a battle where I can. And really, for the 5 battles, all I need to do is I need to win 2 of the gold level matches and then 3 of the silver ones. So as long as I win those, I'll get the 12 flags I need to get the final reward of 10 Trinity Crystals and 500 points. So it does require me to log in a bit more frequently than before, but I can still get it to work with this team. And so that's why Rachel runs the skill set that she has. If I'm using her for actual content, very frequently I change it up, obviously. Like bringing Gospel, for example, to provide immunity to all debuffs. And then instead of AoEs and so on, I replace those with 2 single target strikes, such as Dark Reaper and Holy Word. Right? Depending on the content. Sometimes I do bring Runic Void and Lightning Strike, but it always changes based on what I'm using her for. Ultimately, she's one of the very flexible characters. Can single target strikes, can AoE, so can provide gospel. So it all depends what you're using it for. Finally, I also do have a juggler plushie to equip on her when necessary. So for those situations where I need gospel to last 3 turns rather than just 2, there is that for her as well. And last but not least, I didn't even mention it as well, but I do have a Scepter of Divinity as well, so that can increase range too. So there's a wide variety of gear that I can adjust on Rachel to equip her and use her as necessary. Her main drawback is that she's 5 stars for me, and that's why I don't really use her for PvP or anything like that. Omega is another PvE character, mainly now. That might change when Omega gets access to his 3C skill, or so I hear. But for now, he very rarely shows up for me. He has his best set of gear, or at least his current best set of gear. Uller's Bow, Last Rites, King's Crown, and Insidious Pendant. And I don't think there's much else to say. I mean, he's here to just literally ignore guard attack, hit the enemy leaders directly, and kill them off. You know? And this works in pretty much all PvE content because he has such high skill. Tiaris does not appear in my Apex team whatsoever because I've had so many other better healers, such as Lana, such as Wilder, and with Florentia coming up as well, there's just more than enough healers so that Tiaris does not need to play any role in my PvP team. But PvE content, she remains by far the best healer. Healing Light is the only skill in the game, or only talent I should say, or skill, whatever you want to call it, that provides healing between combat permanently, right? I mean, you can kind of say Sophia does it with Regenerate, right? But Regenerate only affects one hero after all, and it only restores 10% hit points. By comparison, Healing Light is 3 times Tiaris' int, and you can apply Healing Light on all your party. So given that's the case, she's just by far the best PvE healer. Yes, there are other characters who can sort of apply healing between combats, such as Wilder, but Wilder's high stakes only lasts for 3 turns. Right? It's not a permanent thing. So, yeah. Tiaris, best healer, PvE content. I generally run her like this, with Attack Blessing, Heal, and Mass Heal. Miracle is nice, but it only lasts 2 turns and has a 4-turn cooldown. So, it's just a skill you can't use consistently enough, so that I would prefer to run Mass Heal. There are occasional uses for Miracle when you really want to get both the 15% damage increase and the 15% damage reduction effect, but generally you can run without it. Who else do I really use? Chloe, I don't use at all. Liana will be covered in the PvP video. Sophia. Okay. Sophia is actually, no. I'm going to skip Sophia as well, because I use her for PvP right now. Young Jessica, yes. She's another PvE hero that I use a lot. Only at 4 stars, and yet she's still amazing for it. A lot of reasons for that, but the main thing is that in Divine Bestowment state, she can attack at 5 range, which makes her very, very versatile, because most enemies don't even have 5 range. So she can attack enemies from outside of their attack range, and give you an easy win that way. When you build her for single target strikes like this, you bring Fireball, Cleanse, and Divine Bestowment. And you want a Dimension Jewel with the Clocks enchant to have as many chances of refreshing the cooldown on these 2 skills as possible, so she can potentially just keep launching them out with good luck. The one adjustment I've made recently is sometimes I give her the Scepter of Divinity. Right? This scepter does not have the max roll yet, so I'm still re-rolling it, but it allows her to attack at 6 range rather than just 5, which is absolutely, it's just insane. Okay. Other than that, sometimes I replace the scepter with just a higher damage single target single target accessory, sorry, single target weapon, like let's say Blue Moon, because it gives 13 plus 10. So that's 23% int increase, as opposed to the Scepter of Divinity, which provides no int increase there. So you can only get whatever percentage you have enchanted on it. Right? Other than that, I pretty much have her built for maximum int. Right? There's 5% on the Baldur's White robes that she has. The Scryer has 4%, maximum 5. And then the Dimension Jewel does only have 7. So she, overall, you know, she's not doing great damage, but if she can keep hitting enemies outside of their range, you're gonna win sooner or later from this. And other than that, oh, I guess I'll mention my Matthew briefly. My Matthew is in the Archer class simply because I have access to the Archer class. Yeah, I mean, attack command, roundabout, faction buff, that pretty much sums it up. Easier to, I mainly use him as a support, like to provide faction buff and attack, and then he can attack and retreat. In addition, while he currently has Windcutter Dagger and Esoteric Slate, when I do use him, I generally replace this with, let's say, the Omega set, so Uller's Bow and so on, so that he can attack at 3 range and not get counterattacked. I don't think we're moving further and further down, and I think most of the other heroes are not really worth speaking of at this point. You know, for example, like there's like Hein with his Steel Enchant set of gear to be very difficult to kill, right? This with Shrine Maiden 75%, with Steel that's 85%. Then he just needs 15% more damage reduction to have 100% of it, and he was used for clearing Sleipnir. Right? I actually built this whole set for him to fight Sleipnir, and then I use him occasionally for Guild Wars now, and that's pretty much it. Sonya sees the occasional use as well for things like Guild Wars and so on, so she does have a set of gear, but you can see it's like the enchant set is totally broken up. Egbert is used occasionally for doing fixed damage, so he has, you know, a Purgatory and Meditation Ring set with random gear that I have left over. I use him for Timeless Trials when there's this fixed damage trial, and that's pretty much it. Egbert is getting his 3C skill soon, right? And that could be interesting, because his 3C skill allows him to apparently summon a copy of him that will A, do fixed damage to himself, and B, that will also allow him, it will also teleport someone. So what you could do once you've summoned his, I guess, clone or whatever, is you can use the clone to teleport him forward, then have him launch out AoEs or whatever. So it allows for new combos with Egbert, which could potentially be interesting. Not quite sure how that works yet. And the final thing to mention about the clone is, because it does some damage to him, if you get Egbert's exclusive, the Garb of Firewalking, right, when attacked and dealt damage, it should really say when dealt damage, gain skill range +1 and span +1 for 1 turn. So his exclusive is triggered by that clone damage. So it doesn't actually need the when attacked part. Just an interesting point to raise up. Alright. Cherie! Cherie has a set of gear simply because I use her to do some auto battling for any keys, such as Rocky. So she actually has a really, really nice set of gear with 14% attack, another 4 attack here, another 3 attack here, and another 7 attack here. I really should probably look for, and it's a full moon set of gear. I really should look at probably improving this one, but the problem is my Cherie is only 4 stars. So this is a problem because with this set of gear, she is supposed to be able to counterattack kill enemies, but she fails to. So that's unfortunate. If she did enough damage to counterattack kill, I could get some clears that were 2 turns. But at the end of the day, it's now taking 4 turns, and with the ability to use continuous battle, that's not a huge difference anymore. So in the past, a 2-turn versus 4-turn difference might have mattered. Nowadays, it doesn't matter. Who cares? As long as you win, that's all that matters. Narm, mainly Guild Wars. You see a level 50, she's using leftover gear once again. So level 50 old Hydra's bow, old Kagekidan's uniform, right? An old Lone Star armlet that I have, enchanted with 10% attack, and then I gave her her exclusive, which has a 3% attack increase. Right? It's a level 20 version of her exclusive as a side note, but since she's not expected to ever get attacked really, that's more than enough. So it's kind of like a maximum attack increase, don't care about her survivability situation. There's a few other heroes I use, such as Leonhardt, such as Lifini occasionally, such as Firakia occasionally, for challenges and whatnot, but none of them are, I guess, high utility heroes, right? Even Leonhardt, for example, he's missing a helmet, right? He's mainly here to do damage once again, just like Narm, so he doesn't need a full set. You know, the only reason to add a full set to him would be if I really wanted to make him have the magic bonus of extra AoE damage and so on, but that can wait till I get a better helmet. Right? I'm actually out of helmets that I would be willing to enchant a magic enchant on, so that's why he's currently helmless. Until I get to pick up a decent helm, like another Fury of Tyr, there's no reason to give one to him. And then the last bunch of heroes are just these three, I suppose. Right? Chris sees occasional use for guild battles. For guild battles again, she just has a level 20 Red Moon, and yet this is usually enough. Yeah. She is a bit low on int though, so I might level this up to level 50, but she's just, as I said, occasional guild battle use. Almeda is the same, occasional guild battle use. So, and then Jessica, surprisingly, Jessica, despite running this odd set, she's used a lot, because I use her mainly for fighting goblin runs, okay? And I usually play turn 1 of the goblin runs, so I usually have her teleport Shafania forward, and then after that I turn on auto battle, and she just uses single target strikes. And with this set of gear, with the Purgatory and the speed boots and whatnot, she actually has enough int to one-shot the enemies. So even though she only has 2 out of 4 class mastery in the wizard class with no access to her other 2 classes, she's, even without using the Windblade skill, she does enough damage to one-shot the enemies, so the goblins. So it works out. And those are the PvE characters that I want to cover. Thanks for watching, everyone. Nitro out.